Journal of Democracy, Spring 1991, $7.50. Democracy's Third Wave. Samuel P. Huntington. Can Yugoslavia Survive? Mihalov. Soviet Reaction, Russian Reform. Gail W. Lapidus. Oleg Rumyantsev. Liu Binyan on China, Larry Diamond on Nigeria, Gehad Oda on Egypt, Sung Ju Han on Korea. Upcoming development, Hernando de Soto and Deborah Orsini. Democracy's Third Wave, Samuel Huntington. Samuel P. Huntington is Eaton Professor of the Science of Government and Director of the John M. Olin Institute for Strategic Studies at Harvard University. Material in this article is based upon the 1989 Julian J. Rothbaum Lectures at the Carl Albert Center of the University of Oklahoma, to be published as The Third Wave, Democratization in the Late 20th Century, University of Oklahoma Press, 1991, and is used here by permission of the press. Between 1974 and 1990, at least 30 countries made transitions to democracy, just about doubling the number of democratic governments in the world. Were these democratizations part of a continuing and ever-expanding global democratic revolution that will reach virtually every country in the world? Or did they represent a limited expansion of democracy, involving, for the most part, its reintroduction into countries that had experienced it in the past? The current era of democratic transitions constitutes the third wave of democratization in the history of the modern world. The first long wave of democratization began in the 1820s, with the widening of the suffrage to a large proportion of the male population in the United States, and continued for almost a century until 1926, bringing into being some 29 democracies. In 1929, however, the coming to power of Mussolini in Italy marked the beginning of a first reverse wave that by 1942 had reduced the number of democratic states in the world to 12. The triumph of the Allies in World War II initiated a second wave of democratization that reached its zenith in 1962, with 36 countries governed democratically, only to be followed by a second reverse wave, 1960 to 1975, that brought the number of democracies back down to 30. At what stage are we within the third wave? Early in a long wave, or at or near the end of a short one? And if the third wave comes to a halt, will it be followed by a significant third reverse wave, eliminating many of democracy's gains in the 1970s and 1980s? Social science cannot provide reliable answers to these questions, nor can any social scientist. It may be possible, however, to identify some of the factors that will affect the future expansion or contraction of democracy in the world, and to pose the questions that seem most relevant for the future of democratization. One way to begin is to inquire whether the causes that gave rise to the third wave are likely to continue operating, to gain in strength, to weaken, or to be supplemented or replaced by new forces promoting democratization. 5 major factors have contributed significantly to the occurrence and the timing of the third wave's transitions to democracy. 1. The deepening legitimacy problems of authoritarian regimes in a world where democratic values were widely accepted. The consequent dependence of these regimes on successful performance and their inability to maintain performance legitimacy due to economic and sometimes military failure. The unprecedented global economic growth of the 1960s, which raised living standards, increased education, and greatly expanded the urban middle class in many countries. A striking shift in the doctrine and activities of the Catholic Church manifested in the Second Vatican Council of 1963 to 1965, and the transformation of national Catholic churches from defenders of the status quo to opponents of authoritarianism. 4. Changes in the policies of the external actors, most notably the European Community, the United States, and the Soviet Union. Snowballing, or the demonstration effect of transitions earlier in the third wave, in stimulating and providing models for subsequent efforts at democratization.